Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'll give it about 2 more minutes before we'll start the session, just to give everybody a chance to just log in. And then once we have pretty much everybody on the session, we'll kick it off with Gerrit. So thank you so much, and just give us 2 more minutes before we start. Morning again, everybody. Thank you so much once again for joining us, and thank you for your patience. I think we'll start the session. And with that said, I'll hand over to Gerrit that will do the introductions. And I hope you all enjoy the session with us.
I'm the Enterprise Solution Manager at First Technology Johannesburg, and I'd like to welcome all of you to the webinar in collaboration with our partner Veeam. We really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. Our values at First Technology are simple: trust, reliability, and relevance. To be the trusted advisor to our customer means standing by our customers on their journey to digital transformation. It can often be overwhelming to some, and I think it goes without saying, it certainly becomes more critical to find innovative ways of adapting and making sure solutions are addressing the on-demand, business-critical requirements of our customers. An important part of the journey is obviously data management. Data is one of the most valuable resources in any organization. Data management minimizes data loss, and the last thing you want to do is spend some time and resources collecting valuable data and business intelligence only for it to be lost or misplaced. So joining us today to share how you can mitigate exactly these risks is Mark Govender, Systems Engineer from Veeam. But before I hand over to Mark, I would like to remind all of you to stick around and have some fun with the Kahoot quiz. We've organized some great prizes that are up for grabs. That being said, Mark, welcome and thank you for joining us today. And that's over to you.
Thank you, Gerard. I'm just going to share my screen. Good morning and welcome to today's webinar on Veeam Backup and Replication. So like Gerard said, my name is Mark Govender. I'm the systems engineer for Africa at Veeam Software. So today we're gonna be talking about Veeam Backup and Replication. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we start. The webinar is being recorded, so you would have been automatically muted on entry. We will post the recording and the presentation within the next few days. If you have any questions during the presentation, please feel free to post them in the chat panel. And we should also have a bit of time at the end for a Q&A session. So as data centers undergo the rapid digital transformation, data has become critical to make the right decisions to drive business success. So data is pretty much the key to everything, from understanding and serving customers better to driving more efficient business processes. So at Veeam, our vision is to be the most trusted provider of backup solutions that delivers cloud data management. So we want to give our customers the confidence to know that the data is always on, always protected and secure, and it meets all the compliance regulations that they may face. So, and I think the most important part is that it can also be leveraged for positive business value and innovation. And we'll have a closer look at that later. So for over a decade, Veeam has been leading provider of backup, recovery, and replication solutions. Initially, we focused on server virtualization for VMware. And we quickly became the leader in this category. And I think that's what Veeam's best known for over the years. In recent years, Veeam has expanded on this core backup and recovery offering, delivering integration with multiple hypervisors, endpoints, physical servers, and also with public cloud infrastructure as a service or software as a service workloads as well. So Veeam offers a broad management and visibility or control, as well as orchestration engines to facilitate DR's recovery. So the combination of these capabilities allows Veeam to deliver virtual, physical, and cloud data management for any application and any data across any cloud. In Q1 of this year, we released version 10 of Veeam Backup and Replication. So this included support for NAS backup, and there's been a lot of enhancements around our instant recovery feature as well as support for immutable backups. And with that, we've also introduced over 100 new features and enhancements. So we'll have a closer look at some of the features in the coming slides. In June this year, Gartner has named Veeam a leader for the fourth time. This time they've positioned us at the highest level for the ability to execute. And you can see from the number of customers that we've hold worldwide that, our execution of the backup solutions that we provide has always been well accepted. So to jump into Veeam Backup and Replication, I kind of always start at the end of it. So Veeam Backup and Replication uses the same image level backup for all data recoveries. So you can restore VMs, VM files, drivers, application items, and even individual guest OS files to the most recent state or to any available restore point that you may have. So in terms of recovering Microsoft Active Directory, SQL Server items, SharePoint, Exchange, or even Oracle application items, you can use the capabilities of Veeam Backup Explorers. We also give you the ability to restore physical or virtual machines back to Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud in the form of the EC2 instances, or you could actually do it back to Microsoft Azure. So from a component standpoint, the backup server is basically a Windows-based physical or virtual machine on which Veeam Backup Replication is installed. So it is a core component in the backup infrastructure that fills the role of the configuration and the control center. So it's basically responsible for all of the administrative activities within the backup infrastructure. So it will be responsible for coordinating backup, replication, recovery, verification, and also your restore tasks. It's also responsible for scheduling of the jobs and also resource allocation within the backup infrastructure. So it's used to basically set up and manage the backup infrastructure components, as well as specifying global settings for the backup infrastructure. So next we have the Veeam backup proxy. The backup proxy is an architecture component that sits between the backup server and other components of the backup infrastructure. So while the backup server administers the tasks, the proxy processes jobs, it delivers backup traffic. So the backup proxy is responsible for retrieving virtual machine data from the production storage, also compressing, deduplicating, and encrypting that data, and then sending it off to the backup repository if you basically running a backup job. So, or you have the option of sending it off to another Veeam backup proxy if you're running a replication job. And then finally, we have the Veeam backup repository. So simply, the repository is a storage location where Veeam keeps backup files, VM copies, as well as metadata for the replicated VM. So from a very high level, this is what the architecture basically looks like. On the left-hand side, you can see we've got a production environment that's basically running either a VMware vSphere environment or Hyper-V or even a Nutanix Acropolis hypervisor environment. And at the top, we've got our Veeam backup server. And connected to that is the Veeam backup proxies and a scale-out backup repository. So in terms of the process that it does is the backup proxies, when initiated by the backup server, will start extracting and collecting the data of the virtual machines directly from the production host. It then transfers it out to the scale-out repository. And from the scale-out repository, you're able to actually upload it into either an object storage for long-term retention, or you could make a secondary copy of it, or you have an option to actually upload it to tape. So looking at the architecture of this, you can see it's pretty much in line with our philosophy of being simple, flexible, and reliable. Now, the nice thing with this is that you could actually initially run these core components on a single server. But when it comes to actually scaling out your environment, you'd actually be able to scale your backup infrastructure according to what your production environment scales. So you could simply add multiple proxy servers in with the roles actually allocated to servers outside of this infrastructure. And that would actually be responsible for load balancing and improving the performance of your backup. And then from a scale out backup repository, you'd be able to scale out and have multiple repositories where your backup files are actually sent to. So the Veeam backup file format, it's a common format that we actually use across our products. So whether you're using Veeam backup and replication, or even if it's the community edition, which is free, you will always end up with a .vbk file or as a full backup and a .vib file as an incremental backup. So the same thing applies to whether you're backing up Nutanix virtual machines or even physical Microsoft Windows or Linux. In terms of the repositories, direct attached storage is one example. In fact, it's a very high performance target. If you're looking for high performance backups and restores, direct attached storage is what I consistently see as one of the fastest options. Then we have network attached storage. I mean, there's a huge market of unified storage systems as well as NAS devices that could provide a target to put backup files on. There's also deduplicating storage devices. This might be a data domain or an exagrid store ones or even a quantum. And you could actually have a very good experience with these appliances, especially if storage efficiency is very important. And then we have object storage. So we have object storage support for Amazon S3, Microsoft Azure Blob, IBM Cloud Object, as well as any S3 compatible storage device. And the fifth one is a bit unique in that it's actually a Cloud Connect repository. So the Cloud Connect repository is a repository that's provided by a cloud service provider. And it's a little bit different in that we can't actually use that repository within a scale-out backup repository. But it is a Veeam backup repository that you could actually target for your backup. On a side note, when you're choosing or designing a backup repository, it's always good to take into consideration the performance and protection of the backup repository. So we spoke briefly about scale-out repository, but just to define what it actually is. So in terms of a definition, the scale-out backup repository is a logical entity. It's a logical entity that groups several backup repositories, which we call extents. So if you're familiar with any storage management software, chances are you would have heard or seen the term extents before. So this is a software-defined way to pool the backup storage, which gives you better backup data management and also allows you to implement some policies. So basically, this provides you the transparent addition and removal of extents. You could also put in placement and locality policies. And of course, you can go to the infinite level with the cloud tier. So you start leveraging cloud storage, but with a bit of difference. And the difference is that it's done very intelligently. And secondly, it's done using logic. So this is a really, really good way from a software-defined standpoint to manage where your backup data sits. So the other side of the scale-out backup repository is a cloud or capacity tier. So the Veeam capacity tier is part of the scale-out backup repository. It is the object storage implementation that works from existing backup repositories through the logical entity of the scale-out backup repository. So, excuse me. For example, over here, we've got direct attached storage. We've got some network attached storage and a dedupe appliance. So these collectively are the scale-out backup repository's performance tier. And we call it the performance tier simply because presumably these disks are close to the source data and they're well connected and have a low latency. So they should actually give you good performance. And this is where the capacity tier actually comes in. So we actually able to scale out that repository into the cloud infrastructure using object storage and also on-prem object storage using S3 compatible devices. So this is where they come into play by holding older backup files or keeping copies of backup files so that you're able to actually save on the amount of disk space that you actually require in your performance tier. So this is a good way to actually make sure that your cost for actually saving backups is actually worked out quite well. So to jump into some of the features of the Veeam backup and replication software, we're going to have first have a look at a full VM restore. So this is a full VM restore using instant VM recovery. So on the left-hand side, we've got the production environment with your hypervisor and a couple of virtual machines running on it. And on the right-hand side, we've got a backup of those virtual machines. And this backup is actually in a compressed dedupe state. So in the event of you actually losing a virtual machine, you're able to actually mount the backup file using Veeam vPower technology directly back to the hypervisor and actually instantly or within minutes get your VM backup and running. So at this stage, the virtual machine is actually running directly from the compressed and dedupe backup file. And once it's up and running and the services are available to your users, you would actually be able to do an online migration of that data back into the production environment. So this, in a way, this totally reduces your recovery time objective. A traditional restore of a virtual machine back into an environment can take you quite a while. This just gives you the ability to actually get the service up and running for your users and then actually do the migration in the back end. In terms of migration, if you need to actually move that resource from a different platform, maybe from, for example, from a physical server into a virtual environment, you're actually able to leverage your backup file to actually get that process completed. So with the instant VM recovery solution, we give you the ability to actually take backups from a physical server, a virtual machine that may have been Hyper-V, Nutanix, or even a cloud VMs like an AWS EC2 instance or a Microsoft Azure VM. And you have the ability to actually restore it or do an instant restore of it back into a VMware vSphere environment. The other use case would be for migration. If you actually have a requirement to do a migration from maybe an on-prem virtual solution, into Microsoft Azure or AWS for that matter, you're able to actually leverage this technology to actually get that done. So workload mobility. This basically is an easy portable and recovery of on-premises or cloud-based workloads to AWS. So like I said, any of your workloads that you've created using the Veeam backup and replication software or so forth, you'd actually be able to recover into an AWS or Azure environment. So it might not necessarily be for a migration process, but it could also be your online disaster recovery environment or your business continuity environment. So simply put, we can take any Veeam backup stored in any Veeam backup repository, and we can easily restore it as a cloud-based workload into AWS or Azure. And the nice thing is you could actually use pretty much any of the editions of the Veeam backup software to actually get this done. So from a DR point of view, on the left, we've got the main office with an on-prem backup solution and a Veeam backup repository. And then we give you the ability to do a direct restore from that Veeam backup repository into a Microsoft Azure or Amazon AWS environment. And you could actually use this as a DR solution for your environment. The next feature is secure restore. So Veeam backup and replication allows you to perform secure restore, which basically means it's a scan of the machine data using an antivirus software before restoring the machine to the production. So on the left here, we've got a Veeam backup and replication server with a backup repository. So you basically go in and you select a restore point that you'd actually like to restore to. And then from there, you can do a mount of this directly onto a mount server. So on the mount server, the Veeam backup and replication triggers an antivirus scan to scan the files of the mounted disk. So during the scan, the antivirus may actually detect, a malware in the disks, and then it gives you a couple of options that you can actually get from that. So if there is an infection found, you can actually still proceed with the recovery, but you can actually disable the network cards on that virtual machine. If the infection is found, you also have the option to actually just stop or abort the restore. And of course, if there's no infection found, then you could actually just continue with the restore. So currently, Veeam Secure Restore has built-in direct injections with Microsoft Windows Defender, as well as ESET Smart Security and Semantic Protection Engine to provide the virus scanning. However, if there's any antivirus software with command line support, it can also be interfaced into this process. So when you run a secure restore, you actually have the available for all of these restore options. So whether you're doing an instant restore or full VM restore, or even a direct restore to Azure and AWS, even if you're doing exports of agent backups into a virtual disk or volume level restore, you have the ability to actually scan the data before you actually complete your restore. The next feature is stage restore. So with the stage restore, Veeam backup and replication uses a pre-configured data lab, okay? And in the virtual lab, Veeam backup and replication starts as VMs directly from the compressed and deduplicated backup files that reside on the backup repository. And then the Veeam backup and replication copies the script from the backup server directly into that VM that you're planning to restore. And it'll actually execute that script on every VM that's within that group. So all VM changes that take place during script execution are kind of saved to some Delta file. And after the script is execution is completed, the Veeam backup and replication will actually power off those virtual machines in the virtual lab. And then you can actually start the restore of this. So the stage rest functionality is basically gives you the ability to boot up your virtual machines from your backup files and actually change the data within those machines. So if for some reason you actually require data to be removed from a virtual machine before you actually restore it back into production, this sort of stage restore gives you the ability to actually do that. So we're going to look at some restore capabilities, from data and also availability using the Veeam replicas. So the first option that we actually have from availability point of view is to actually do a failover. So on the left-hand side, we've got a production environment with ESXi and Hyper-V and some VMs running on it. And on the right-hand side, we have a duplicate of that. So the replication job would have been running across from the production onto DR. So we've got an exact copy of it. In the event that you actually use a virtual machine or lose a virtual machine in the production environment, you're simply able to actually run a failover of that specific virtual machine onto your DR site. And it will be up and running in a few minutes. And then we have the fail back procedure of this. So once you've got you up and running on the DR site and you find that you're able to actually repair the machine in the production side, you're able to do a sync back of the data changes back into the production environment and eventually fail back onto that original production environment. And I mean, this can be done with the minimum amount of downtime to that virtual machine. Then we allow you to create a failover plan for your replicated virtual machines. So this just helps you to streamline the process of actually failovering from production environment onto a DR. And it allows you to create a DR failover plan that actually allows you to stipulate what virtual machines will be in that plan, as well as their predefined order of them actually booting up. So in the event that you lose the production environment, you basically execute your failover plan and all of your virtual machines will actually be restarted up or you will be booted up in your DR site, and it minimizes your downtime in a DR situation. Another option that we have is plan failed over. So this gives you the ability of doing manual switching from your primary virtual production environment onto your DR without with absolutely minimizing the risk around or interrupting the operation of the virtual machine. So what happens here is we run an incremental replica of the VM, then we do a shutdown of the VM, run another replica, and then we actually bring the virtual machine up on the DR side. So you can see this is a slowly planned migration of the virtual machine from your production to DR. There's absolutely zero data loss because after the virtual machine is shut down in production, we actually do a quick replication of it to make sure that the data blocks are up to date. And it also minimizes the amount of time that you actually need to get this done. And then finally, we can actually do item level recoveries from replica files. So granular item guest OS files, as well as application level restores or application items directly from the replicas that are available at your DR site. So to go into item level recovery a bit more, we have something called Veeam Explorers, or the suite of Veeam Explorers. So this extends the functionality of Veeam backup and replication and allows you to restore or export your data from backup or replica files. So Veeam Explorers are distributed as part of Veeam backup and replication, and you do not need to install anything separately for them. You also do not need to pay any additional licenses to use the Veeam Explorers. So the first Explorer that we have is the Veeam Explorer for Microsoft Active Directory. which allows you to restore and export Active Directory objects and containers directly from your backup. Then we have Veeam Explorer for Exchange. Obviously allows you to restore and export Microsoft Exchange objects from the backups directly. You can see it's very granular in the restore options. You could actually just restore a calendar entry for the user that may have been accidentally deleted. It gives you the option to actually save messages from their mailbox as a .msg file, or you could even actually export their mailbox folders and save it as a .psd file. So we've got an Explorer for Microsoft SQL as well. This allows you to restore and export SQL databases and schema objects from the backups. It also assists with doing publishing of the databases if you want to use it for test or development purposes. And if you have SQL administrators, you're actually able to export the backup as a .dak file that they could actually natively use on their SQL environment. And of course, we've got one for SharePoint, also allows you to restore and export SharePoint objectives directly, objects from the backups. So you can do restores with original permissions, or if there's data, you actually able to export it to a zip file or send it directly on an email to somebody. We've also got a Veeam Explorer for Oracle, which allows you to restore and export Oracle databases from backups. It has integration with Oracle RMAN and has an RMAN plugin as well. And then Veeam Explorer for storage snapshots. So one of the features of Veeam Backup and Replication is the ability to do storage integrations into your production storage environment. And what we're able to do is actually leverage the snapshot technology of that storage unit. So the Veeam Explorer for storage snapshots gives you the ability to do restores from that snapshot. We will have a bit more of a deeper look at it in a short while. So NAS backups, you have the ability to do entire file share restores. You could roll back to a point in time, or you can actually restore specific files and folders. And this was brought in on version 10 of Veeam Backup and Replication when we introduced our NAS or backup for NAS. We also give you the ability, excuse me, give you the ability to do file recoveries from Veeam Enterprise Manager, which is an add-on product that's responsible for management of multiple Veeam Backup and Replication servers in a scaled-out environment. And you can also use it to delegate recoveries to trusted users. So if you have a call center that's actually maybe responsible for desktop support, you could actually, one of the tasks could be to delegate the recovery of files for users to them, and they'd be able to carry out that task for you. So from a data protection point of view, we're going to look at backup of virtual machines. So Veeam Backup and Replication is built for virtual environments. Okay, it operates at the virtualization layer, and it uses an image-based approach for Veeam for a virtual machine backup. So it does not install agent software inside the VM, but it's still able to retrieve guest OS data and application and do application-aware processing as well. So to back up a VM, it leverages the virtualization's snapshot capabilities. So if you back up or you're replicating virtual machines, you can actually enable guest processing options. And this would actually do a full QSing of the application within the guest VM. And it will be a consistent backup of that virtual machine itself. So you can see when the backups actually run, you have inline data reduction that actually works. We have a change block tracking aware driver that runs, and that gives us the ability to do incremental backups very quickly. And it is 100% agentless because it's talking to the virtual environment at the hypervisor level. And of course, we've got encryption, and you have the option of doing policy-driven backup. So NAS backup, with the release of version 10 this year, we've introduced NAS backup, and you can see from it's quite a flexible backup solution for NAS devices. We have support for quite a number of devices that you may see out there, including a normal Windows file share or even a Linux file share. And the way we actually do the backup is pretty unique. So we have something called change file tracking. So pretty much called a fingerprint system. So what happens is we keep a cached file on what data actually exists on the NAS device. And when we need to run an incremental, we're actually able to only back up the files that need to be backed up or have changed since the last time. So in terms of this picture, if you look at folder 1, going down to folder 3, and the location of file D. So when a full backup runs, obviously it's going to be the entire environment. And the next time the backup runs with an incremental, we actually just need to back up that file D. So we are snapshot friendly in that if we have snapshot availability on the NAS device, we're actually able to leverage that, which actually helps with file locks. So with the snapshot technology, or the snapshot actually happening on the NAS device, there's no file locks that will actually be present in that environment. You can do a point-in-time restore based on those snapshots. And I think the best part is that it actually offloads those performance from the production environment. So none of your users are actually affected by the process of the backup. So it's a very scalable architecture. So like I said earlier, even with the core product of Veeam Backup and Replication, it can scale with your environment quite easily. So by simply adding more file proxy servers, you're actually able to back up a lot more data and actually do it a lot more quicker. We've got a very efficient forever incremental backup engine. And like I said, we're able to leverage storage snapshots if it is available on the NAS device. So from a locked file perspective, so without snapshots, lock files are just simply skipped at that stage. And then at the end of the job, we'll run a retry to make sure that it might be unlocked to actually complete that backup. Backed up log files from Microsoft VSS Snapshot is available for SMB 3.0 or later. Another feature that's incorporated into Veeam Backup and Replication is a backup copy job. So with a backup copy, you can create several instances of the same backup file and copy them to a secondary target or backup repository for long-term storage. So target backup repositories can be located on the same site as a source backup repository, or it can be deployed offsite. So the backup copy file has the same format as the primary backup. Excuse me. So you can restore necessary data directly from it in the case of a disaster. And also this feature obviously gives you the ability to comply with the 3-2-1 rule or 3-2-1-0 rule of the backup infrastructure. Then we have VM replication. So in addition to the Veeam backups, you can create VM replicas with the Veeam backup and replication. So when you replicate a VM backup and replication creates an exact copy of the VM in the native virtual platform format on a spare host. And this maintains this copy in sync with the original VM. So replication provides the best recovery time objective values, as you actually have a copy of your VM in a ready to start state. So all you're basically doing you would actually just need to switch it on to be able to access data. So that is why replication is commonly recommended for the most critical VMs, where you need the lowest amount of recovery time objective. So you can also utilize a WAN accelerator when you're sending your Veeam replicas offsite. This will actually help you to reduce the amount of data that you're sending across. So it's simply put, it's a, it creates a one-to-one copy of the virtual machine on your DR site, and it uses or has full support for change block tracking. So it is almost near CDP recovery point objective. And when you do need to start up the machine, it's just a normal native boot time of the VM that's actually required. The other option is that it does allow you to actually keep multiple restore points on the DR site. So if you look closely at the picture on the right-hand side, you can see there's multiple copies or multiple restore points of a specific virtual machine. You would also have the option to actually recover to those points in time, or even if you actually need to recover data from those points, you actually have the ability to do it with Veeam backup and replication. Tape support. I know a lot of people say tape is dying, but you still see a lot of customers or a lot of environments where it actually still does make sense. So we provide native tape support that's fully integrated into the Veeam backup and replication. You can administer all operations on tapes from your Veeam console, generally for long-term archiving or compliance. I think that's the most common reasons why people still use tape. And it also assists in making sure that you try to adhere to the 3-2-1 backup rule, which means having 3 copies of your data on 2 types of media, with 1 being offsite. So from a tape perspective, to back up data to tape, you just need to create and run a tape job. The tape job is a dedicated job that archives tape or archives the Veeam backups to tapes. And you can see from the control of the Veeam backup server, it's simple, straightforward job that actually has a catalog of the tapes that's available that it can write to. It has a catalog of the backup files that are available to be written, and it instructs the backup repository to transport the data through to the tape device where it's written to the actual tape. And from there, you would be able to send it offsite quite easily with some sort of mechanism. So you can use multiple drives simultaneously for writing data to tape. This option is useful if you have a lot of tape jobs running at the same time, or you have a lot of data that must be written to tape in a limited backup window. You can configure multiple drives, either from one tape library, or you can actually manage multiple tape libraries, or use several tape libraries, with several tape drives in them. So built-in WAN acceleration. So WAN acceleration is a Veeam technology that optimizes the data transfer from your production environment generally to an offsite data center. So it's specific for offsite backup copy jobs and replication jobs. So offsite backup copy and replication always it always involves moving a lot of large volumes of data, across the WAN. So the WAN acceleration technology combines multiple technologies like network traffic compression, multi-streaming upload, or even and includes global data deduplication. So all of these technologies together actually helps to optimize the data transfer and reduce the amount of data going across the WAN. So storage integration. Spoke about earlier being able to actually integrate into the storage units that you actually use in the production environment. And once you actually have the setup, you're able to actually take advantage of these functions within the Veeam backup and replication. So firstly, you're able to actually do a backup from storage snapshots. So you can use the storage snapshots to actually create backups as well as replicas of VMware vSphere virtual machines that's hosted in the production environment. And then you'd be able to back up or even replicate them off onto another VMware vSphere environment. So we've got Veeam Explorers for snapshots. We spoke about it earlier in that we're able to actually leverage those snapshots to help you reduce your recovery time objective or your recovery point objective. And you still have the ability to do granular level restores from it. On-demand sandbox, so you can start VMs whose disks are actually hosted on the production storage system by leveraging those snapshots. So you can run it in an sandbox environment, and you could actually leverage this for testing or training and troubleshooting and so on. Snapshot orchestration. So you can configure Veeam jobs to periodically create storage snapshots on your primary or even your secondary storage for that matter. And it just helps to actually reduce your recovery point objective. And you actually still would be able to do granular recoveries or application-aware recoveries from those snapshots. So to give you a bit of perspective on the benefit of actually doing the storage integration with snapshots. So on the left, we've got a backup from a storage snapshot of a VMware virtual machine. So you can see the length of the virtual machine snapshot or the lifetime of it. And once the snapshot actually gets taken, the backup job will run. And then you're going to have to spend a bit of time or it will actually delete that snapshot that was created prior to the backup. However, on the right-hand side, if you're leveraging backup from storage snapshot, we're actually able to coordinate the virtual machine snapshot at the vCenter level. And that's purely because we need to actually be able to do the application-aware processing of that virtual machine. And then immediately we create a storage snapshot of the volume where that virtual machine resides. And then we can actually commit or delete the original VMware snapshot that exists. And our backup process is actually run off the storage snapshot on the production storage environment. And then eventually, once it's complete, we obviously can delete that storage snapshot. So you can see the impact or the difference in time, that you're holding the VMware snapshot. So it obviously reduces the impact that it actually has on the production environment. So leveraging that snapshot feature or storage snapshot feature for better recovery time objectives and recovery point objectives. So, you can see from the picture at the bottom, we've got a backup of the virtual machine that happens every day at 8 p.m. And if you were only doing backups, that would have been your last recovery point, okay? And you would actually be able, or you would actually need to basically restore it, or you could possibly use the instant VM recovery to try and get it up as quick as possible. However, with the storage snapshot integration, we actually run a snapshot every hour on the storage unit. So there's no backup of this data, but there is a snapshot in place that's actually orchestrated by Veeam Backup and Replication. And then in an event of a failure, you're actually able to use that snapshot or revert to that snapshot in order to get your environment up and running. So that actually improves your recovery time as well as your recovery time objectives. Because, reverting back to a snapshot is definitely a lot quicker than trying to leverage your backups to recover. So I think we spoke about this earlier, the Veeam Explorer for storage snapshots. So we give you the ability to actually restore VMware VM data directly from the native storage snapshots. You can use a Veeam Explorer to do instant VM recovery of the virtual machine. You could do application restore, application items when it's a application-aware backed up virtual machine. Or you could just do simple guest OS files from within the guest operating system. So this is what the picture looks like from a backup from storage snapshot perspective. So from the Veeam backup server, we initiate the backup job, and that would actually speak to the VMware vCenter in order to actually ensure that we can do an application-aware an application-aware backup of that virtual machine. So the backup server will initiate a VMware VM snapshot. and then the change block tracking info is passed back through to the backup server, and then we initiate a snapshot on the storage unit itself, and then we delete the VM snapshot at the VMware vCenter level. The Veeam proxy then interacts with the production storage unit, and based on the snapshot that was created on it, it actually pulls the data directly from the storage unit all the way into your Veeam backup repository. So currently, we've got support for a wide range of storage units. So this is the list that's currently available. This changes quite often, depending on our interaction and so forth. So you can actually go to our website and you'd be able to get an updated list of this. And that's me. So thank you very much for your attention. If there's any questions, please feel free to ask or maybe post it into the chat. And I'm going to
So hi, Mark. We have a couple of questions. We've got a question from Gavin. So during your presentation, he asked, can you connect the recovery to Google?
Not at the moment. There is a way that you can actually, not directly to Google, but there is a way that you can actually get around that. I'm happy to have the discussion if you'd like. It is a bit of a longish story that we're going to go through, but I would be able to do it. So if what I'll do is I'll grab Gavin's details from you and I'll actually provide that for him on how you can actually get that done.
Okay, perfect. Then we've got another question from Mukoni. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that. The difference between on-host and off-host proxy.
Okay, so your on-host and off-host proxy is used in a Microsoft Hyper-V environment. So basically the difference is with on-host, the Veeam transport services or the Veeam services that are actually used to extract data from the production environment is actually installed directly on the Hyper-V host. So the Hyper-V host that's actually basically has the virtual machines on it will have the Veeam proxy services installed directly on it. So all of the processing is actually carried out by the Hyper-V host itself. With the off-host proxy, you can actually stipulate an actual Hyper-V host that's outside of the Hyper-V cluster as a proxy server for that cluster, which means that it will not have any live running virtual machines on it, but it will be a dedicated server that's going to be used for the proxy services, which means it's a lot more efficient and it actually reduces the impact on the Hyper-V environment. I hope that answers his question.
Okay, and then the last question that we had was from Ishmael. So he asked, are backup file types backward compatible?
So when you ask if it's backward compatible, I assume, can I take a backup file from maybe version 7, 8, or 9 and actually use version 10 to restore it? If that's the same thinking you're having, 100%, you can do that. There's no issue with that. So even, I think that's with the ability or the file format that we actually use for our backups. It actually allows you to use it probably with the next version of the software that comes out would still be able to actually allow you to restore files from versions 7, 8, or 9, or anything from prior to that.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That's all the questions that we had in the chat box.
Okay. So yeah, if there's any questions, my details will be shared with everybody. So if you have any questions or would like any more information, please feel free to contact me, and I'll provide that for you. So with that, I think I hand over to Kara.
Guys, thank you very much for everybody again for attending. I'm going to hand over to Quentin now for a bit of fun on the Kahoot stuff. So yeah, Quentin, over to you.
Thank you so much. So thank you to Mark and to Gerard for hosting us today. Before I share my screen and start the Kahoot session, may I please ask everybody to get their phones ready? So what you would need to do is you'll need to log into your phone using the following code. Let me just share this. Okay, so you'll log into, you'll take your phone, you'll type in the URL, which is www.kahoot.it. That'll then prompt you to enter the game PIN, which is the 8951351. And then can I ask you to please enter your actual name so that we don't have any aliases. That way I can then announce the winners at the end of the Kahoot session. So just for everybody's wow's sake, we have some amazing Take-A-Lot vouchers. So the first prize will be an 800 Rand Take-A-Lot voucher. The second prize will be a 600 Rand Take-A-Lot voucher. And then the third prize will be a 500 Rand Take-A-Lot voucher, which is probably the best time to receive it, seeing that Black Friday is almost on the horizon. So all you need to do is type in the URL on your phone, www.kahoot.it, and then enter the game PIN, and then that'll then prompt you to be entering into the room. So I can see Gavin is in, Jack, Mukwane is in. We've got 3 people. We have a total of about 11 attendees. So we'll give it about a minute or so just for everybody to get online. And then once you are online, I'll start the session. You'll note that on your phone, there's only 4 colors on your phone. There's no questions on your phone. So the questions will appear on your monitor. And then based on the question that's being asked, there'll be 4 blocks at the bottom of your screen with the correct answer being one of them. You just need to select the correct color on your phone related to the correct answer that's showing on the screen. If anybody has any problems not being able to log in or have any questions before we start, please leave me a message in the chat box. I'll address it with you quickly before we start the session. Currently, we have 5 participants. We're waiting for just a couple of more people to just join us. I'll give it another minute or so, and then we'll start the session. And then just so everybody is aware, this is a fastest finger first session. So if everybody gets the correct answer, the person that had the fastest correct answer will get the most points, of course. And then, of course, you'll compete against each other to see who's the quiz whiz after the session. So let's see. So we have no questions in the chat box, sitting on 6 people. If you still want to join after the session has started, the actual URL and the game PIN will still appear at the bottom of the screen. So you're more than welcome to join us at any stage. So I see that we are still only on 6 people. That number has not increased. So with that said, I'll start the session and good luck, everybody. First question, which song became the most viewed video on YouTube ever? Was it Uptown Funk, Gangnam Style, Baby Shark, or Shake It Off? So on your mobile phone, that's correct. So Baby Shark is the correct answer. So as soon as everybody's answered the correct answer, it'll just pop up on screen. So out of that, 2 out of the total attendees got that one correct. So with that said, let's see who is in the lead to start with. So Gavin is currently in the lead, Mukwane in second, and by default, Jack is in third. Question number 2, which of the following is an institute backup solution that works, is fully software defined, and with application awareness? Is it backup and recovery, orchestration and automation, cloud mobility, or monitoring and analytics? And of course, the correct answer to that one, which almost everybody got correct, which is backup and recovery. So let's see if Gavin can keep his pace. So Gavin is still in the first lead, Mukane in second, and Tabo has taken third spot. Question number 3, which country won the 6 Nations Rugby Championship? Was it France, England, Scotland, or Italy? 10 seconds on the clock. One more person to answer. There we go. And of course, the correct answer is England. Gavin is still staying strong, with Lionel now taking second place and Mitesh in third, kicking Mukwane into fourth place. Question number 4. How often should backup be tested to ensure they have completed successfully and data can quickly be recovered? Is it during holiday breaks, only if infected with a virus, after a major system outage, or regularly tested? Red, blue, yellow, or green? Correct answer, of course, is green. Everybody got that one correct. Congratulations. And Gavin still staying strong, and then Lionel and Mitesh second and third. Fifth question. A baby goat is called a what? Is it a calf, a kid, a foal, or a pup? One more question. There we go. Of course, it's a kid, which is an odd one. Gavin is still staying strong. Lionel and Mitesh second and third. Fourth question. This is a multi-question. So which of the following is part of the Veeam availability suite? You can choose 2 of these options, which will each give you a certain amount of points. So you can click on red, blue, blue, green, yellow, green. Click 2 of the correct answers on the screen, and each one will award you points. We've got 4 answers. We need 1, 5, one more. 6 seconds on the clock. Which 2 of these are correct? And the correct answer to these one is Veeam Backup and Replication and Veeam 1. So Mitesh has kicked Gavin out of first place. Lionel staying strong in second. Question number 7. So this is a riddle. What has a tail, a head, and is also bronze? Is it a worm? Is it a cat? Is it a penny? Or is it a nail? And of course, the correct answer to this one is it's a penny. A penny has a head and a tail, and it's also bronze. Mitesh has had a 6-win streak of correct answers. Gavin is coming up strong in second place again, with Lionel in second. Question number 8. Which of the following would be used to restore application level items? Veeam Availability Orchestrator, Veeam Enterprise Manager, Veeam 1, or Veeam Explorers? One more. And of course, the correct answer to this one is Veeam Explorers is the correct answer. Mitesh is still going strong with a 7-win streak. Lionel coming up in second and Gavin in third at this stage. How many months have 28 days? Is it only 1, February? None. All months have more than 28 days. All months. Okay, so everybody got that. Well, 2 out of the 6 people got that one correct. So just for FYI, every month has 28 days. Mitesh staying strong. Gavin coming back again into second, with Lionel now in third place. True or false? Gartner named Veeam a leader for the 4th time, positioning Veeam this time as the highest for the ability to execute. Is this statement true or false? 2 more answers to go. 10 seconds on the clock. One more. There we go. This statement is completely true. Congratulations, Veeam. Mitesh still staying strong. He's had 9 correct answers in a row. Congratulations. Gavin and Lionel in second and third. Question 11. This is a multi-section question. Again, you can choose 2, which will give you double points. Which of the following backup scenarios fulfills the requirement of the 3-2-1 rule? So which of these 4 statements are correct? You can pick blue, red, yellow, or green. Pick 2 of these answers that you feel is correct, and each one will award you double points. That might push some of our contestants out of their first place. 1 more to go. And of course, the two correct answers to this one is backup job at the local data center, backup copy job to a secondary site, and backup job to a Cloud Connect provider to ensure backups are off-site. With that said, Gavin has officially taken first place again. Mukwane has come up strong into second, putting Mitesh in third. Question number 12. Another multi-section question. If malware is found during the secure restore with an instant Veeam recovery, which two options do you have when recovering? Proceed with recovery, but disable the network adapters. Proceed with recovery as normal. Abort Veeam recovery. Delete the infected backup. Which two statements are correct? One more to go. Have a little bit more time, longer question. Which two statements are correct? Just pick the two colors you feel are correct. Each of these questions will give you points. The longer you wait, the less points you earn. There we go. So the two that was correct is proceed with recovery, but disable the network adapters, and abort Veeam recovery. We've got 6 of those. Most people got that one correct. And Mitesh has now taken second. Gavin still strong in third. Mukwane into third. True or false? Does Veeam support storage integration? Is the statement true or is it false? That, of course, is a true statement. Everybody got that one correct. Let's see who was the fastest finger first. So everybody kept their slots as they were. Congratulations. And last but not least, who is this person? So is it Ariana Grande, Jennifer Lopez, Rihanna, or Rita Ora? And of course, everybody knows this woman. This is Jennifer Lopez. And then with that said, let's see how our winners are for today. So in third place, we've got Mukwane. Congratulations. And in second, we've got Mitesh. And let's see is who our first winner. And that's Gavin. So congratulations to our 3 winners. We'll be in contact with each one of you to award you with your Take-A-Lot voucher. And with that said, I'll hand back over to Gerard. And then thank you so much for joining us today, everybody.
Yeah. Everybody, thank you so much for joining, and hope you learned quite a bit today. And just thanks for joining us for the quiz as well. It's always nice to have a bit of fun, and hope you guys have a blessed day as well. Any questions or anything that you guys have, please feel free to reach out to us at First Tech and with Veeam. Again, in saying that, hope you have a blessed day, and everybody keep well.